Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Earlier this week, I was tagged by Melinda at a web of stories in an original tag that she has just created to encourage booktubers to make videos in which we introduce an author to the community. And I absolutely love this idea. This is a tag that you can do over and over again with different authors. Today, I would like to introduce an author that I've talked about briefly before in at least one video, and that is Amanda Cross, which is the pen name for the author Carolyn Heilbrunn. She wrote under both names, and I'm going to talk about her works under each. Melinda's first prompt is, which author are you introducing? Tell us something about their life and how you came to meet them, and why did you decide to introduce them? I was first introduced to Amanda Cross in 1980 or 1981 in a winter term course that I took at Middlebury College in Vermont during the month of January. We used to have winter term at Middlebury in between the two regular semesters. I think they still have a winter term. And during this month, the month of January, we would take just one course. Usually, January term courses were unusual. They were unusual topics. They might be on things that the professor could not ordinarily do during the regular semester. Or it might be some, sort of niche interest that the professor had. Well, this particular January of 1980 or 1981, I took a course with the head of the philosophy department and with a French professor. They co-taught a course that they invented called The Simple Art of Murder. Basically, this was a very intensive study of the mystery genre. And basically, we read something like a book a day for the entire month of January. We read the likes of Edgar Allan Poe, Wilkie Collins, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie, Josephine Tey, Dorothy Sayers, Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler, Robert B. Parker, Ed McBain, Ross MacDonald, John Dixon Carr, James M. Cain, and Amanda Cross. It was sort of like March Mystery Madness, but it was January in Vermont. Anyway, this is where I first met Amanda Cross, when we read her second novel, The James Joyce Murder, which was written in 1967. It featured the protagonist, Kate Fansler, who is an English professor at a prestigious New York City university, which is never named specifically, but given what we know about the author, we can assume it was Columbia University. In this novel, Kate is vacationing in the Berkshires. She's taking care of a young nephew for the summer, and she's also hosting a couple of graduate students who are helping her. One is helping her with her work, and one is a tutor for her nephew. She's working on an academic project. She has been asked to sort through and organize the papers of a famous, recently deceased publisher. And the papers include this publisher's correspondence with James Joyce. There are all kinds of clever references to the works of Joyce all throughout the novel. But a knowledge of Joyce's works is actually not required to read the novel. Readers of Joyce, though, will find it particularly delightful. A particularly disagreeable next-door neighbor is murdered, and all of the guests in Kate's summer home are suspect. I loved this book. I loved Kate's intellect and her witty banter with everyone. Her boyfriend in the early novels is Reed Amherst, the district attorney. In later novels, he becomes her husband. Their dialogue alone makes the novels worthwhile. So after this introduction to Kate Fansler, I quickly read the third novel, which is Poetic Justice. This one was written in 1970. And I read The Theban Mysteries, which came from 1971. This might be my favorite. And I read The Question of Max from 1976. I may have also at that time read the first novel, In the Last Analysis, and this one came from 1964, I think. After college, and then for about the next 20 years, I read all of the subsequent novels that she wrote in this series. Much later, I would also read the literary criticism and the memoirs written under Amanda Cross's real name, which is Carolyn Heilbrunn. I want to introduce her here on my channel to the BookTube community because I absolutely loved this mystery series, and I greatly admire all of the work that Carolyn Heilbrunn did in the field of literary studies. I'm not exactly a completist yet, but almost. I have read all of the Amanda Cross mysteries. I seem to be missing a couple of them from my collection, but I know I have them. I know I have bought all of them. I may have to repurchase 2 of them. And I have read much, but not all, of her literary criticism and her memoirs as well. A little bit about her. Carolyn Gold Heilbrunn lived from 1926 to 2003. She was born in New Jersey, but moved to Manhattan as a child and grew up in New York City. She earned her bachelor's degree at Wellesley College, and then she earned her master's and her PhD at Columbia University, where her mentors were Jacques Barson and Lionel Trilling. Very late in her life, she wrote an autobiography, which I have. I think this may have been her last book, and this was When Men Were the Only Models We Had, My Teachers, Barsoon, Fadiman, and Trilling. This book details her life at Columbia in a field that actually did not welcome women back in the 1950s. She would go on to teach at Columbia from 1960 until 1992. And she was the first woman to be granted tenure in the English department, and also the first woman eventually to hold an endowed chair at the university. She also served for many years during the 1980s as the president of the Modern Language Association, or the MLA. Much of her literary scholarship focused on modernist writers such as James Joyce and Virginia Woolf, and she is certainly considered a pioneer in feminist literary studies. She wrote 15 Kate Fansler novels under the name Amanda Cross because she feared early in her writing career that if it were known that she was writing and publishing non-academic books, such as murder mysteries, it would actually jeopardize her position in an almost entirely male department and actually entirely male world of Columbia University. So she kept her secret for many years until a fan actually sort of outed her after discovering her true identity in copyright records. She was married to James Heilbrunn, an economist. She married him when she was 19, and she was married to him for the rest of her life, and they had 3 children together. Okay, Melinda's second prompt is, what types of books do they write? What genres do they write? And what authors are comparable to them? Well, the Kate Fansler novels by Amanda Cross are academic mysteries. They might be considered comparable to the academic mysteries of the late Edith Scombe, who was a writing professor at Northwestern University. And she created an amateur sleuth like Kate Fansler in the character of Beth Austin, who taught at a fictional Midwestern university. Unnamed, but undoubtedly modeled after Northwestern, where Scombe taught. She wrote the George Eliot murders, the Charles Dickens murders, and the Mark Twain murders. Similarly, Joanne Dobson, who taught at Fordham University, she created the Karen Pelletier novels, featuring also an English professor, Karen Pelletier, at a fictional and prestigious Enfield College. She wrote the Maltese Manuscript, the Northbury Papers, The Raven and the Nightingale, Cold and Pure and Very Dead, Death Without Tenure, and Quieter Than Sleep, a modern mystery of Emily Dickinson. I would tend to think, though, that both Scombe and Dobson may have read Amanda Cross and were influenced by her rather than I'm sure that they read her. They wrote much later than Amanda Cross. She was writing these Amanda Cross, Kate Fansler novels from the 1960s until 2000 or early 2000s. Carolyn Heilbrunn herself said that she took her inspiration from Dorothy Sayers, and specifically from her novel Gaudy Night, which was written in 1935. This is an academic mystery set at a fictional women's college as part of Oxford University. Heilbrunn wrote extensively about Dorothy Sayers in her critical, in her literary criticism as well. The first of the Kate Fansler novels is In the Last Analysis, written in 1964. In 1965, this book was nominated for an Edgar award, and Cross was relieved when she didn't win because she believed that if it became known that Carolyn Heilbrunn was Amanda Cross, she believed that it would have destroyed her chances at getting tenure. She did indeed earn tenure 2 years later in 1967. Heilbrunn Cross said of Kate Fansler that, quote, her destiny offered her more possibilities than I could comfortably imagine for myself. In the beginning of the series, Kate is already a tenured professor. She is also independently wealthy. Over the course of many books, as I mentioned, she dates, falls in love with, and eventually marries the district attorney that she frequently works with, Reed Amherst. Some of the novels include academic politics within the English department of this prestigious university in New York City. But they go much beyond that as well, to larger issues in society. Kate's knowledge of literature, though, is one of her superpowers, and it comes in very handy as she solves crimes. Because she was writing these novels from the early 1960s until the early 2000s, she deals with a wide array of cultural issues of the times. Some of the novels have the Vietnam War as a backdrop. Some feature campus unrest. She deals with issues of civil rights and racism. Frequently, she addresses the misogyny in many university departments. Death in a tenured position, for example. I think I have that one. Well, maybe I don't. I know I do have that one. I can't find that one. Anyway, Death in a Tenured Position. Oh, I think that one I have in hardcover, but I don't. It doesn't have a cover that you can actually see. I lost the dust jacket somewhere along the way. That one deals with the only female hired in Harvard's English department. And she was hired specifically because she proclaimed that she was no feminist. Then she's found poisoned. Sweet Death, Kind Death, which I do have here. Sweet Death, Kind Death, from 1984, deals with issues related to aging, when a college's resident eccentric is found drowned in the campus lake. As Carolyn Heilbrunn, she wrote Writing a Woman's Life. Let's see if I can find that one. And this one came out in 1988. Here, she explores the lives of such women writers as George Sand, George Eliot, Willa Cather, Virginia Woolf, Adrienne Rich, and her most significant role model, Dorothy Sayers. She suggests that these women's accomplishments should not be viewed as overcompensating for a lack of sexual success or traditional feminine attractiveness, but rather as the result of powerful choices that they each made. Hamlet's Mother and Other Women, written in 1990. Trying to get rid of the glare. Is a collection of critical essays written from 1957 through 1988. Here she considers Shakespeare, Freud, Homer, Woolf, Joyce, Sarton, Sayers in these essays. Here she explores feminism in literary studies and reconsiders some traditional interpretations of many of the female characters that have existed throughout literature. The autobiography that I showed before, when men were the only models, was written in 2001. This is an autobiography about studying at Columbia in the 1950s. It tells the story of how a woman who would go on to become a leading feminist scholar, found models for the intellectual life, the life she wanted, in men. Men who could not imagine having women as their colleagues and equals. The Last Gift of Time, Life Beyond 60, was written in 1997. And this is a collection of personal essays in which she reflects on 5 decades of marriage, motherhood, the pleasure of her the pleasure she now found in her adult children, dogs, friendships, especially friendships with women, and aging. She muses in one essay about how she once thought that she would take her own life on her 70th birthday, assuming that her creative energies would have been exhausted by that time. But she's writing this essay at 72. Clearly, she didn't do what she thought she was going to do at 70. She marvels at daily life, the daily life that she chose to embrace instead. I was devastated to learn in 2003 when that she did, at the age of 77, that she did indeed take her own life. And she left the shortest of notes for her loved ones. She simply wrote, "Journey over, love to all." Melinda's third prompt: where should a reader start with their work? Well, the order in which you read the Amanda Cross novels really doesn't matter, except that in the early books, she's not yet married to Reed, though he is a character. I think he's a character in every one of the volumes. I would start with either the James Joyce murder or the Theban Mysteries. The Theban Mysteries was my favorite. And then I would also recommend Poetic Justice and The Question of Max. I would not start with In the Last Analysis, the first book that she wrote. It's not her best, and it doesn't really show what she does with this literary superpower that she has. And if you're interested in her literary criticism, I think I would actually start with Hamlet's Mother and Other Women, because it's a collection of her critical writing from 1957. onward. So there's a whole lot to choose from. I think that would be a good place to start. Okay, and the last prompt is to tag others. I think this is a great tag for anyone to introduce an author to the rest of the community. And I think that it's a tag we can do over and over. Whenever you think of an author that you'd like to introduce to the community, you can do these few prompts in order to give us an overview of a writer. So if you're watching this video, I hope you will consider doing this tag, making such a video about a favorite author of yours. And additionally, as I always do, I would like to specifically tag some people. I am tagging Steve Donoghue, but I told Steve about this tag a couple days ago, and he loved the idea, and he has already done it. But Steve Donoghue is officially tagged by me. And if his viewers have anything to say about it, it might become a regular feature on his channel because it went over really well and everybody wants him to do it, to do this, introducing authors again and again. Additionally to Steve, I am tagging genre books, James at Quaint and Curious Volumes, Rainer Reads Stuff, Stuart Griffin, My Messy Bookshelf, Ven's Book Corner, Cliff's Dark Gems, Time Travel Reads, A Poet Reads to Write, David Novak Reads Poetry, Beyond Books, Big Hard Books and Classics, Another Bibliophile Reads, Libro Paradiso, Mystery and Mayhem, Criminale, Books, Songs, and Other Magic, Reading Ideas, Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book, Bookish Texan, and Will Chambers. And again, anybody else, if you're watching and you'd like to do this, this is a really great idea. And Melinda, thank you for tagging me on this original tag. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.